All right, everyone. We have Aaron Howard on today. He is our Padsplit rep for the Charlotte, North Carolina market and Raleigh, North Carolina, right?
Correct, correct. Pretty much the triangle in Charlotte. I do have some hosts outside in some of our other markets and things like that that I can help on board with. But yeah, we're definitely focused on North Carolina here.
Perfect. Yeah, so I wanted to bring him on board today because he helped me through moving from my old platform Elcove onto Padsplit. And we're going to talk about what Padsplit's doing and some of the challenges we had moving over, and then finish up with some data on the Charlotte market. So thanks for coming on, Aaron.
Dude, I'm excited. I know we've been talking about this for a little bit. We've been working closely together for a couple months now. So I'm just excited to be here and excited to get a chance to talk.
Yeah, so Aaron, for the people that haven't heard about Padsplit, most of my audience has because we've talked about it on my channel, but
Yep.
just briefly describe what Padsplit is.
Yeah, so Padsplit is just a co-living marketplace platform where we market and advertise your rooms for you to kind of help fill them, but we also kind of attack it in a sense to where we think we should add value to that undervalued space in the property, right? So most of our Padsplit properties, the only common area is going to be that kitchen and the shared bathroom. So a lot of people are taking temporary walls and things like that to kind of add bedrooms to the property. And then we'll come in and kind of rent those out in that rent by the room model, so to speak.
Awesome. Yeah, so I really want to jump into probably we're going to start with this. The biggest selling point with me coming over to Padsplit was you sold me on marketing because I had an empty unit that my old platform was just not filling. And I pretty much told you to prove it to me. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so
Yeah, no, and I relished that request, right? Like at the end of the day, this is still new. We're still a new company with a new model and things like that. So I loved that opportunity, especially because I love Charlotte in general. But yes, so once the property is live on our site, like automatically, there's two sides of the marketing that I kind of say that we do. First side is it's going to auto populate on 50 plus different listing sites, advertisement sites, different things like that. We also partner with Google in the sense as well. So anytime people are Googling like rent for room near me or room for rent near me, things like that, Padsplit kind of shows up at the top of those search bars more times than not. My favorite part of marketing that we do is the other side of that, and it's called like targeted ad spend. And it's caused me not to be able to complain about Big Brother as much, if we're being honest, because with the data that we've collected from all the people that have stayed in the rooms and things like that, we have a good idea of who's going to be a good fit. And so once that happens, we will piggyback on Big Brother a little bit within that vicinity. And certain people that we kind of assume that are going to be a good fit are going to start seeing those Padsplit advertisements on their Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever they're calling Twitter today. They're going to get some emails and things like that. And that, in my opinion, really builds that awareness leading up to that instead of kind of being stagnant and waiting for them to go search for these rooms themselves.
yeah, and talk a little bit about, I mean, you're a newer company. You're not, I mean, you're Charlotte's a new market.
Mm-hmm.
Where are these marketing dollars coming from? Because it could cost a lot of money to get these, get this out here.
Oh my gosh. So, first off, it does cost a lot of money. I'm not sure what the exact dollar amount is, but I know marketing is not cheap no matter what type of marketing that you do, right? So, we really, especially as a new company and things like that, like we have a clear goal of where we want to end up, right? And I like to think that we still have the same type of mindset when it comes to real estate investing as well, when it comes to like that long-term goal. Yes, if we would have kind of cut back on some marketing spends and things like that, could as a company, we would have made more money in the short run. That's probably true, right? But we are very, very dedicated in taking in that money that we're getting and kind of re-putting it back into that marketing strategy and that targeted ad spend and things like that to really make sure that one, the rooms are getting filled by good people, but two, they're staying filled, the people, the homeowners are happy and things like that. So I tell people that I talk to a lot, I feel like marketing is the most intense job and has the most weight on their shoulders in our company, because if they don't do our job, then nobody's happy regardless.
Gotcha. And talk a little bit about not just the marketing itself, but you guys have a couple referral programs for members and
Mhm.
hosts to help us help you out, us help you out as well.
Oh, yes, thank you for bringing that up. So on the host side, the property owner side, our referral program is if you, for example, would refer anybody to us and they put something on our platform, 4 doors or more, nothing crazy, we'll actually send you $1,000 referral bonus, and that's for each host, that we put on the platform. And also, we do know that even in the year 3024, the best marketing is always going to be word of mouth, right? So we've set up a similar type of referral program on the member side, the people that live in the property as well, because let's be honest, if they're doing a good job living in the property, then their coworker or their friends probably in that same tax bracket of how much they make each year and things like that. So if they refer somebody that ends up moving in, Padsplit in itself will kind of give them a little bit off of their rent for a week or two or things like that, that we still compensate towards the host that comes out of our side. But yeah, we have referral programs on both sides to kind of make sure that, we're still growing on both sides.
Yeah, and I really like that touch. My old platform had a host referral, but they didn't have a member referral.
Right.
And you got to think like people are living together in this house. So let's have more people bring people in that they want to live with. It's just going to make a better household. So.
Exactly. Right. And, and I'm sure we'll talk about this eventually, but that is one of the biggest pushbacks that are the biggest questions that I get asked on a daily basis is how does a larger number of people that are not related, has no type of loyalty or friendship or connection really, how does that kind of bode well in a single house scenario? So you're definitely correct on that. The more times that we can get a member to refer someone into that same house, it's just going to, more than likely, it will always kind of alleviate at least a little bit of stress for that homeowner.
Awesome. So let's jump into customer service. And
Mhm.
I will say so far, very impressed. I'm always able to get somebody on the phone, even when there is issues. I can at least get somebody in and get a conversation going.
Mhm.
Let's talk about, you have your job, but I think what Padsplit is doing well is you're starting to build out more like somebody doesn't have to wear all the hats. You have
Right.
teams in place for everything. So let's talk about customer service a little bit.
Right, correct. And that's a very big thing for us too, right? Because the one thing that I think our CEO did early on was realize that support is needed if we're going to take this thing in the long haul and all the way to the top of the mountain, right? And I'm never going to talk bad about any competitor because that's just not my thing. But yes, we do have that. I think if my memory serves correctly, that was one of your biggest complaints when we started talking about like transitioning and things like that is just, I think it's more of you want to feel heard, right? You want to make sure that, hey, someone on the other end of that does care about the problem that you're dealing with right now and is doing everything they can to at least kind of communicate that with you, right? And I think that we do a good job with not just having one type of support, but we have different kind of avenues of support depending on what support you need and different things like that. And yes, obviously, I hope that you've seen that I'm responsive and that I'm right there with you in some of the things that you need. But yes, when it comes to like customer support and things like that, we have a phenomenal team that has a lot of pressure on them. Let's be honest, because that is a big complaint. And I've heard nothing but good things about the quick responses, making sure that they're at least fixing the problem or kind of doing everything they can to make sure that works. But that is kind of like a big selling point, and you're right. And kudos goes out to our customer service team nonstop.
Yeah, it's not always so much that they have the answer, but it's that you get a quick response and you'll eventually get to the right place. Now, will you always get the answer you want? No, but that's no, that's not always going to be the problem. It's
Right.
figuring out what is the answer and what do I have to do from here. And the longer that takes, the more problems you're going to have in your household, and it's just going to create tension. So the response rate is great. Now, all of this costs money. So let's talk about the fee structure and what it costs to, get a property on the Padsplit platform.
Right. And that's a good question too, because everybody wants to know how much it costs. Like, I mean, that's the thing, right? So Padsplit itself will only ever charge you two different ways ever, period, ever. The first and the main way that we kind of charge anything is we charge 8% of rent collected per month. That way it's not necessarily a set cost, vacancies happen, things like that from month to month and things like that. The secondary thing that is all the rave right now that people are trying to talk about is, it used to be only 15% flat rate per month and things like that. And now since we dropped it down to 8, we added that we get the first 10 days of rent on that initial move in. And that's for each member, not just the house, but that's also on that initial move in, not like the first 10 days of every month, right? Now, there's a few different ways that we can look at like why we do that. Obviously, I'm the one on the side of things that it kind of incentivizes the property owner or host to just, let's make sure we do everything we can to put a good product on that platform, right? Because at the end of the day, if we do put a pretty good product on that platform, we've seen that, 6+ months is that tenure length of stay, however you want to call it. And yes, did we have some people that were putting not so great products on our platform before that, and it caused a move in, move out rate that we were not happy about? Of course. Is it a scenario also where this makes it slightly easier for us as a company to make some more money? 100% also true, in my personal opinion, right? Not sanctioned by anything, but in my personal opinion. But at the end of the day, if we are taking stance to make a little bit money on the front end, and then for long term, still kind of like the same or more money on the back end. In my mind, that means Padsplit's going to be here 10 years from now when co-living's blown up even more, instead of us trying to kind of grab everything we can and then we fizzle out like some of the other competitors from the co-living standpoint as well, right? Because like I said at the beginning, it's kind of like that long-term mentality. We do want to be here for the next decade and two and things like that, because unfortunately, like I just don't see the affordable housing crisis going anywhere anytime soon.
Right. Now, there's a few things like it does make it a lot harder to underwrite a property from a host
Mm-hmm.
side. Because you could have a perfect property and just get the wrong
Right.
people moving in and they're not working together. They can't live together well, and you have a lot of turnover until you get that right group of people together. And that's,
Correct.
no fault to your own. Now, a lot of the times there is fault to the host. And I do want to bring up something, not just only with the fees, because we see now what we pay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but really what the host is responsible for. I really want to make it clear that the host, this isn't a property management company. This is a
Correct.
platform for you to put your property up, get good marketing, find people and have a good support. Find
Right.
members and have good support. A lot of people miss that part about Padsplit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So yeah, and that's a very good point too, right? And one thing that I like to bring up early when I'm talking to people, at least on that first, initial talk and things like that, is I will let them know like, hey, at the end of the day, when all brass tacks is collected, Padsplit is a technology company. We are a tech company through and through. We are not going to do anything on the physical side. I'm at full transparency all day long. Are we going to take a massive amounts of things off of your plate and property management plates and things like that? Yes. And that is why in most, if not all of our core markets, we have a very good list of vendors that we work with. They're very well educated on our model. The newer markets are taking a little bit longer to make sure that we have those good relationships and things like that. But yes, we will not do anything on the physical side from like when it comes to like if you want to double check to make sure the room's good from a turning standpoint, or if somebody accidentally puts a hole in the drywall from a replacement standpoint, or if we wanted to do those initial renovations and add a few temporary walls up in the house. And that is why that we definitely tried to make sure that our vendor network is very well educated on our model, as well as give kind of like a discounted rate on like labor and materials and things like that, And that's a very big thing for us too, because just like how we want to make sure that people have safe, clean, affordable housing, when it comes to these vendors and things like that, we really do try to find local vendors because we want to keep that money in the community as well. One thing I like is we don't have that many like national account partners, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to jump back to the fees at one for one more thing, and I want to mention something. There are a little bit of there are some ways that we as the host do cover some of that first 10 days that you move in, because like we have a move-in fee. You can
Correct.
sit wherever you want, but it seems like from what I've seen so far, you could correct me if I'm wrong, people usually set it around $100 to be competitive in the market.
That's correct, right? And that was, I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I definitely wanted to make sure people know. On average, they do set that move-in fee around $100, like you said, from that competitive standpoint. But honestly, I've seen anywhere from 100 to 250 as that move-in fee. It obviously depends on the property, the room, what they're kind of getting in that stance. And yes, some people have kind of seen that as a way to kind of maybe alleviate how painful those first 10 days are, if that's the way you want to kind of say, and things like that. But yes, we do have that move-in fee that is 100% customizable per the host.
Yeah, and I've had 3 move-ins in 2 months
Mhm.
because I acquired some tenants that, came over from my last property to members
Mhm.
Padsplit, lost one, and ended up getting 3 rooms total that I filled through Padsplit. I had 2 at $100 and one at 111. And honestly, I don't even remember setting it at 111. It just was, and then
Right.
somebody moved into that price. I will say, out of those three, 2 of the 3 move-ins were pretty self-explanatory. I gave the same instructions to move in, and I
Mhm.
had very little conversation. As the host, we're responsible to move those people in. Now, they might contact customer support
Right.
if they can't get a hold of us, but we can set our move-in hours.
Mhm.
You should be available when those move-ins are happening. One, because, well, you said those move-in hours are available for you to help move that person in. And two, you got to get a good rating. So that leads me into the rating. Like, let's talk
Right.
about how ratings are working on Padsplit now.
Yeah, so I think that the rating setup that we have is pretty nice because not only can the member rate you as a host, you can also rate that member as a host, like you can rate them. And then also we have where a member can actually rate another member in the house as well. And I think like having that full encompass of just rating from every point of view, not only does it give kind of like a better outlook of what's going on inside of your property and kind of things that you could do better, or things that maybe your members aren't doing as great as other members, for example, but also as this continues to grow and as people, like for instance, live in one of our markets and then gets a job in another market, which I see happening a lot or a lot more now. A lot of, like for instance, you would get like a little preview of how it's been from a member standpoint, how it's been from a host standpoint with those people. And one good thing that I like about the company is, since we are young and still growing, like things like the rating system is still growing as well. So we're going to continue to improve it as much as we can. But yeah, we have the ratings to where it's full triangle. Everybody can rate everybody regardless of what position you're in.
Gotcha. And yeah, I think I might have had one of those bad ratings that's really tearing me down. And it really was something that was described in my move-in that just wasn't read because they didn't download the app and have those move-in instructions. So it does hurt too sometimes because you're the host and you're like, this was given to you. You just had a problem opening the door.
Right.
You didn't open the move-in message.
Right. And that this saying can kind of be encompassed in a lot of things, right? Like we can do everything we can on like the housing side of things, but like the human side of things is still a factor that like nobody can really, kind of test for.
Yeah, I mean, this model is not built for that move-in fee for me, the host, to be at the door moving you in.
Right. Right.
So, there's going to be some move-in messages or some ratings that
Mhm.
you couldn't have done anything about, and it hurts your ratings. So that is one of the things that I'm seeing some hosts complain about.
Mhm.
You can't do anything about that, but those ratings are there and it kind of hurts our ratings. So
Right. And look, like the rating system's always going to kind of encompass something like that. Like not enough people with any rating is going to say enough positive things, but somebody from a negative standpoint will go and leave a comment so quick, you know.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, like that's this only you control the things that you can control, right?
yeah,
And you know you put those in there, you know what I mean? And you know that you had set everything up right. And like it does suck that that person didn't read what they were supposed to do, and that rating kind of gets in. And I think that that's where I mentioned that the improving of that is going to come into play, right? Because obviously you're not the first host that this is affected.
right.
So obviously we're hearing about that on our end as well. So internally, we're definitely trying to make sure that we improve it to the point where maybe we can kind of like combat a negative review, so to speak, or like bring some kind of, I can't think of the right word right now, proof, bring some proof to the table that like, hey, obviously I had in your situation, hey, I had this stuff set up, they didn't read it, they gave me a bad rating, and then we kind of fix it from there.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's move on to, and I know you guys don't have a whole lot of experience with this because I was one of your first people, especially in the Charlotte market, moving from another co-living platform to Padsplit and some of the challenges we had. So
Yeah, so it's never, I do not want anyone to think like it's going to be like a seamless, like straightforward, like one day here, next day there. That's just not how it works, right? And unfortunately, yes, you were one of the first, especially in that market. So there might have been some, not intentionally, but there might have been some guinea pig scenarios that kind of went down in that regard, right?
yeah,
And I think that that's still another thing that might be chalked up to like new company. We're going to continue to improve those things and kind of make sure that it does get and more seamless, more efficient, and things like that. But honestly, like it really it was negative for everybody involved whenever you hit some hurdles that was kind of like on our side of things, and maybe like things weren't as seamless as we thought that they should have been in the regard, right? But also, like at the end of the day, we were switching from this contract, you know, company to another contract and stuff like that. And I do like at the end of the day, we still were ultimately, you know, from somewhat successful with the transition. But yes, some of the problems and hurdles that came up are definitely something that we weren't happy about, but also trying to make sure that we're doing everything I can to like make sure that those hurdles aren't needed to be jumped as much.
yeah, I would say like the bigs, and I can only speak to our situation
Of course.
and knowing the platform I came from, and I'm sure you're not going to deal with this a whole lot. Most of your clients aren't coming from one co-living to Padsplit, but when payments are made, so if there's payments that were already paid for the month, like if tenants were paid up, like we had to bring somebody on and then they were getting late messages, so we had to take them back off the platform and move them
Right.
after that month. So that first month was a mess. And there's just so much more things that like if I was going to do it over again,
Mm-hmm.
I know now to set up and maybe make sure those payments aren't collected ahead of time and they pay on Padsplit, just push them to that. Because it was a little bit weird. And then this is the biggest thing, and I'm still trying to deal with this. Moving from one platform to the other, I had to collect everybody's phone numbers and start talking to them through my personal phone
Mm-hmm.
or my
Mm-hmm.
business phone. So getting them from to stop contacting me on my phone and back on the Padsplit platform has been the biggest challenge. Most of the time I say, can you just please start this conversation on Padsplit?
Right.
Because
Right.
I want that track record.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and that was the thing, right? And that was so frustrating, even on my end as well, right? Because one, we always want to look good in your eyes, the homeowner, but on the same end, we also want to look good in the eyes of the members and the people that are living in the property as well, you
Right.
know? So that was a big challenge. And I think that it was one of those challenges, literally like trying to like sign a new lease, break an old lease. There was a lot of things kind of in with the other company that we needed to make sure that was completely broke. There were some issues with kind of like pulling money when it wasn't supposed to be, or billing after it was already paid. And I
Yeah.
even think there was a few scenarios where they paid and then we acted like they didn't pay and started getting them into like the move out stage or the
Right.
eviction stage or
Yeah, the
whatnot.
termination. Yeah.
Right, right. From a termination standpoint, which was, I mean, and we even had kind of like the proof that she or he or whoever had kind of done everything that they needed to do, right? So I'm never going to sit there and say that it was perfect because I still use you as an example of a transition that was not perfect, if I'm being perfectly honest, right? But the only thing that we can really do is improve from there. And I think that the big thing, because I talked to the engineering team personally, like 2 weeks after that, was they noticed that the breaking of the lease, the switching over, the whole internal of creating them as a member and getting their like ACH information and stuff like that, I think needs to be a lot better.
Yeah.
And they agree with that too. So it's being improved right now, but I think the reason that it wasn't improved at the time was just because we didn't see as many of those problems because we didn't have that many transitions until like recently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it is also problems with the old platform. They're not going to be
Right.
happy somebody's leaving, so they're not going to make it easy for you to move over.
And that's another thing too, right? Like, the any other company that if you're transitioning to us or something, they're still going to be a little hurt about it. Nobody's going to be like, oh my gosh, you want to leave us and spend your money somewhere else? Oh, please let me help,
Yeah.
and obviously, but at the end of the day, like that still doesn't take away from the fact that that's still something that we need to and are in the process of improving at the time because we want to be that efficient platform that doesn't cause hurdles of our own and we're just jumping the hurdles from everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are so many things. Like I said, the biggest thing was even though we had some issues, I was always able to get somebody on the phone or start an email chain to try to figure out what we had to do. Sometimes it took a little bit of time because they're new issues. You couldn't answer those, or Andrew or Bruno, none of those people could answer that question for me. They had to figure out the answer. But
Right. And I think that goes back and says a lot about the CX and just the support team as well. Like we're not going to sugarcoat an answer. We're not going to beat around the bush. And we're very transparent with the fact, even me, when I'm talking to people as well, it's like, I don't know that answer quite yet. I will find that answer and get back to you. I'm not going to like fluff it up or something.
yeah. All right, so let's dig into the Charlotte market data. And I know it's a new market, but I kind of want to see
Mhm.
what's going on in that market and what you have. So how many hosts do you have in the market right now?
So right now we only have two hosts in the market, and you're one of them. And we have someone else that's got put on a property, I think 2 months before you did. And we actually have four other hosts that are in the middle of the renovation stage right now.
Okay. Gotcha. So you don't have too many doors, but when those
Mhm.
four hosts come on, how many doors are you gonna be looking at or rooms available?
Right. So when those four hosts complete their renovations, we will have 28 rooms coming on board.
Okay, gotcha. So I have seven, and what's that other house full
The
right now?
other house has four.
Four. Okay, so that's a
Mhm.
smaller one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was a very smaller one. It was like, I think like 1350 square foot too. I was kind of scared for it at the beginning, if we're
Right.
being honest.
Yeah, I've helped people underwrite some of these deals that they're trying to fit 6 or 7 bedrooms in a house that size. I said, you guys, you're not going to have success. Don't even try to do it. Please don't.
I feel like one of the sayings I say more often than not is let's not get greedy here.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, we don't need to get greedy.
Yeah. So, do you have, even though we only have these two properties, what's your average vacancy rate? Do we have any vacant rooms right now? Are they all full?
So no, we have zero vacancy rooms right now. And matter of fact, the four people that moved into the other host property in April is the same four people in there now. The Every single day that goes on is just adds to the average length of stay because everybody's kind of in the rooms right now and things like that. What's cool though is the properties that are being onboarded right now, we've slightly started the listing to the point that we were able to start the coming soon marketing, which is something that we do with properties that are like on the verge of being listed and in renovation stages and things like that. And we've already had 50 plus people that have become Padsplit members click on all these properties to notify them once it goes live. So they're able to kind of get a room sooner rather than later or not miss out on those rooms.
Gotcha. All right. So, do you have like a average weekly rent right now?
I do. So the average weekly rent in Charlotte is 205 a week for rooms that have a shared bathroom, and it's pushing 299 a week for bedrooms that have a private bath. And if I'm being perfectly honest, the other property is boosting those numbers up because that lady is literally getting like 250 a week for bedrooms that have a shared bath, and I think she's getting like close to 325, 349 for the bedroom that has a private bath. And those
Yeah,
people
I'm
are
nowhere
just
near there.
no, no, no. Listen,
Yeah,
neither is 99% of the other pad split hosts. Let me
yeah.
get for people watching all around, that is not an average thing. Like, let's not don't come at me and be upset that your private bathroom is not getting 350 a week. I do not. That is an anomaly, not the rule there.
Yeah, I would say my lower ones, not accounting the people that are moving in. The shared bath where I'm getting around I think 190 a week.
Right, right. So I, from a
Yeah.
from a conservative standpoint, I will always kind of direct people to assume 185 is where you will kind of conservatively see bedrooms that have the shared bathroom, and between like 225 and 250 for rooms that have that private bathroom. Now, obviously, there's always going to be extra details that go into that, amenities, room size, bed size, and some other things that would raise that suggested room rental rate. But for like different purposes, I think that's a good average number to kind of look at.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean, starting off in a new market, you're gonna have some battles, learning
Mhm.
a new market and building, but as a host, you're likely going to have higher occupancy rate just because you have less competition.
Right, that is true, you know. And the thing is what I like about your property and the other host property is we really made sure that we were putting that good product on the platform, right? So I'm not, for example, I'm not too worried that if somebody put a pad split across the street from you, that your people would move out and move across the street, right? And I think that that's like a really big thing because, for example, people bring up saturation and the future of pad split from a saturated like standpoint and things like that. And I always tell them, Atlanta is the first market that we ever started in. Out of the 14,500 plus rooms that we have, I think Atlanta has like 6,300 of those rooms. And it is still our most in-demand market, and it is still our fastest growing market, and still has more members on a waiting list than all other markets put together. And so, if saturation hasn't happened in a market that's got 6,300 rooms, saturation is not something we'll deal with anytime soon.
Gotcha. All right, Aaron. Well, I do want to wrap this up. We've been going for quite a while now.
Good. I've been having a good
Yeah.
time.
So, is there anything else you want to really add before we wrap this up?
Now, my thing is at the end of the day, I do not want anybody to think that this is the end all be all solution to your real estate investing problems, right? At the end of the day, pad split is that tool on the belt that, in my mind, is another exit strategy that we might be able to get a higher ROI on. You'll probably share my contact information, things
Definitely
like
will.
that. My suggestion is to just let me look at the property, kind of do like a little mock underwriting on it, see what the potential could be. One thing about me, I have no problem saying, no, this will not work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I do want to make sure that people know that this is just an exit strategy. It could work, it could not. We're here to just kind of make sure that you have some options to kind of really meet your real estate goals, right? So
Definitely.
that's kind of like the main thing I want to make sure.
Cool. Well, Aaron, I'll put your contact information in the description of this video if people are interested in the Charlotte market. But
Mhm.
thanks a lot for coming on.
Dude, Paul, it was a pleasure. As I mentioned earlier, thank you so much for the time. And dude, I'm looking forward to working with you more.
Definitely. Have a good one.